Good evening and welcome to this session of Bringing Law to Life. My name is Juanette and I'm a Student Experience Manager here in the Law School and also an Associate Lecturer. And I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Katie Jukes, who is also a Student Experience Manager and Associate Lecturer in the Law School. And this evening we're delighted to welcome our colleague, Natalie Pickford. Natalie is an alumnus of the Open University, so like yourself, she has the experience of being a student with us. And today, Natalie is a solicitor. Natalie, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of law you practice as a solicitor and how you got to this part of your journey?
Of course. So thanks, Winnet. Thanks, Katie. First of all, I'll provide you with how I got here, because it was never from a degree to a training contract straight off the bat. So once I finished university, and I did do university full time, I then started to actually work at the Open University. And I started off in what is student registration. So people like yourselves, I was booking and confirming places. And then moving on from there, I also had a role in the Open University where I looked at European students and their MBA studies. And then I also, as a sort of side volunteering, I worked for a project called Aim Higher. And Aim Higher was designed to go out into particular schools at year 9. I had year 9. So trying to think whether that would be sort of 13, maybe 14, and discuss what they wanted to do in their career opportunities. If they had any questions, we'd go through a number of objectives and activities. And once we got through them, we would then, and it was for usually maybe a 3-month, sometimes 6 weeks. And it was really, really rewarding actually to not only give back to any adults for which I was working at the Open University for, but also to catch those students who were in the early stages of deciding what they wanted to do. From there, I'm going to say I fell into it because everybody I meet that sort of does this type of work, you tend to fall into it if you don't know much about the area. But it's become very prevalent more recently, and so no doubt the headlines in the news will alert you to the type of work that I do. So when I worked for the local authority, I generally dealt with anything to do with tenancies. So that would be local authority tenancies. And I worked for an ALMO, which is an arm's length management organisation. And from that, we managed stock for the council. It was so enlightening at the age of 20, I want to say 23 maybe, trying to work out now when I finished, or could have been 22. It was a real eye-opener. I wasn't quite prepared for the type of cases, but it certainly was a fantastic experience for me to then get my next job. So once I worked at the local authority, unfortunately, the department that I worked in at the time, they didn't have the ability to get a training contract. It just wasn't an option then. And everybody that I worked with understood the long-term plan for me. But I was there for 3 years. I loved it, absolutely loved it, and then realised that I wanted to move on and use my degree and look to qualify as a solicitor. So I started looking around at different firms that dealt with this type of work. So obviously I knew that my current employer didn't offer that type of ability to qualify through them, so I needed to look outside of the organisation. So I did a bit of sort of digging around the types of people. So for instance, I would tend to go to court. I would assist solicitors at the time in the job that I had. And so you kind of got to know certain solicitors who was turning up, the other side solicitors. And then I reached out to a few of them. Now, what I then did, I actually had there was a job advert actually, and it aligned with what I was doing, albeit it was more just the legal side. It was going to court, it was representing the client for which I was the client at the time. I was part of the council and for which a solicitor would represent my case for me. So thankfully, I was successful in that interview. The process was two interviews with different people and the partners at the firm. And then thankfully they offered me the job. Um, it was one of those. I was very honest. In fact, I'll save that for probably another question. Um, so now I work. Then I worked in a solicitors for a firm of solicitors. That's a private practice firm of solicitors for 9 years, almost 9 years. For my boss and I at the time set off on building another team at another firm of solicitors. So I was there collectively for 9 years. And what I would say is I decided to make the jump to in-house. So for those of you that are familiar with that, in-house is acting for that client. You don't have several clients. So in private practice, you would possibly have 10, 20, 30, depending on who you're acting for, through various parts of the UK. Which was a fantastic experience to me. I went all around the country. Because I'm based in Manchester, but I even went to a hearing in South Wales. It was an 8-hour round trip, I'll have you know. So it was fantastic for me. And then I've joined an in-house company, and we deal a lot. It's housing, so that might be drafting or amending policies and procedures. That might be, unfortunately, it's very support led though. So if people are struggling, we have internal clients. So we have various different departments who are our clients, but you also work for that company as well. But probably there are pros and cons of everything. The definite pro is that you get involved early and that people can come to you and ask, have you got 10 minutes? Obviously, the downside is you are forever in meetings and advising on things at early doors. But it does pay off because there's a lot of time when it might be that, for instance, you've got a property upon which might need recovering for one way or another, and it's about working with that client to make sure that everything has been done to try and support that person. Because, of course, as you'll know, it's about sustainability with tenancies now. It's about offering that support. It's about making sure that where they can, they stay in the property that they have. So that's sort of where my career journey has gone. And that's it. Yeah, that led me to that really. And I still do that now. Whether or not I will stay, it's a great company to work for. Whether or not I will stay or I'll look back to go into private practice, because sometimes I miss the external clients and the business development. But yeah, for now, it's great.
Thanks, Natalie. That's a great illustration of what you do and how you got there. What advice could you give to our students who are trying to gain experience but maybe don't have the contacts, but they need to make applications?
So I think looking at those both collectively, it is difficult. I don't envy anyone. It was difficult for me at the time, and that was quite some time ago, without revealing my age. But I would probably say if you can join things like LinkedIn, I'm not suggesting that what you do is use that currently as a platform for making sure that you are, but you will get a breadth of who's out there. So you might like a particular area of law. You might like criminal. I know a lot of students love the criminal law modules. It's very formulaic. It's interesting. So it's about them finding those firms, and LinkedIn's a great way of initially, I get a lot of requests through LinkedIn. It might be law students, it might be those that are just starting out. So I think you could have a look there because, of course, if you haven't got the contacts, then you've got to start somewhere. And that being said, when you are looking to make applications, I appreciate this is such a laborious task, but once you've done hopefully one application, they're not the same because they ask very different questions, but the premise is there. And I think if you haven't got the experience or in a law firm, because I think it's a difficult situation because you're out there after finishing your degree. You might be in a job that is nothing linked to law, and you are trying to get a role whereby you're required to have experience. But if you haven't got the experience, then you can't have the job, but you won't have the experience because you've just come out of university. So totally get where you're coming from. And I think what I would say is try and make it personal. If you've not got something that's relatable to law. It might be something that's happened in your personal life that you're able to show a particular skill, time management. Don't forget, in the Open University, depending on how you're doing it, you might be doing this part-time. You might have other responsibilities. You might have caring responsibilities. You might have a role, a job, whether that's full-time, part-time. You've got a family to, so there's always things out there. So if there's a time management question, of course, you're absolutely going to be able to smash that one, in my view, because you are juggling absolutely everything. And it's a credit to you all that you're taking on the Open Universities, because of course you've also got an element of self-motivation. So I think you should sort of give yourselves a pat on the back for that, because like I say, I also did some part-time study when I was at the Open University, and I did a postgraduate, then was a postgraduate certificate in criminal justice. I don't think they offer it now, but of course things have moved on. It's a fantastic program for the law program. So yeah, I totally see the pain sometimes of a job, caring responsibilities, and also trying to get through your modules. So yeah.
Wonderfully practical as well as motivating. Thank you, Natalie. How accessible or diverse is your profession?
It is because people, so we have a vast diverse, when I say the profession, I suppose we're talking about being a solicitor, and it is. So for instance, we might have women in law days, and there might be a focus on, one time was maternity, about getting back into the profession, coming back from maternity leave, how that makes you feel, having like-minded people. So of course then we'll have a women in power, and I'm talking about those because of course I'm a woman, so those things are accessible to me. Um, but it's completely accessible. There's absolutely no judgment in the profession at all. I appreciate that maybe a long time ago there may have been this thought, and I know we in the module that I teach, there's this thought about when we look at the judiciary, which of course is something that solicitors and barristers can look to move in. There was a very thought about the boys clubs, but it isn't like that anymore. I go to court all of the time, and the diversity is vast. So I think it absolutely is. And in fact, I will give you a takeaway. It was a few years ago now, and this is how diverse the profession is and the judiciary is. There was a gentleman, a judge, and he was blind. He had no sight, and he had somebody assisting him with reading out the papers. So it's absolutely accessible and diverse.
Natalie, that's so great to hear. Do you have any advice for our students about overcoming any hurdles of accessibility?
I think if you're thinking about joining the profession, I think you've just got to be yourself. And I think that there's no barriers anymore. People will think, well, I've got a disability. Well, we can wipe that barrier away because of the story that I've just explained to you with the judge. There's so many things out there to assist you. A lot of times when you're looking at roles, it might be that there's a thought to accessibility, and you might be eligible to have an interview off the back of your application form because of said possible disabilities and vulnerabilities. It may well be that as well. So I think just be honest and be yourself.
This is really positive, Natalie, and something that we can all take away. Tell us about who you work with. Who are sort of the people and
Mhm.
stakeholders and agencies that are your colleagues?
So I have lots of different people that I work with, and it all depends on the type of the case. So regardless of where you work in my profession and in the area of law that I work in, it's very much, it could be, and I'll go so far, it could be obviously your client, which will be your local authorities, your housing associations. It might be, I don't currently do this work, but I have colleagues that have private landlord work, all of those types of people that you come across, other solicitors. We work we've got quite a big team. There's only two of us that do the role that I do, and there's a lot of properties, so it can be quite busy at times. well, all of the time, but it's really diverse work and it's really exciting to come in every day and see what's waiting for you. In terms of agencies, that could be anybody. Somebody might be asking, you might have a client that's asking you for some advice because the police, social services, support workers, scheme managers are all looking for some assistance because our clients will reach out to those people to see if there's and you'll realize that, and whether or not any of you have ever experienced this, getting support with the um, funding constraints um, is difficult. So it's about working with those people and putting people's case forward. And sometimes that requires a legal element to it. And the clients of mine are asking, could you help with this? Could you speak to these people for us? Or could we have a meeting all together? And it might be that we have a meeting with the other side solicitor. It might be that we come together with the clients, the solicitors, possibly the agencies, but more so you would be involved in the agency side and meeting with agencies such as social services or anything that you can think of, the police, is when you would be in the specific role of a local authority or housing association. So, yeah.
So actually, housing is a lens through which you can touch a wide variety of areas of law and wider society.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, you get a lot of I feel good about some of the work. Don't get me wrong. We have to sometimes there's some difficult decisions to be made, and that always is the case. But there are times when you've got a vulnerable person, a witness, and they also need the same protection afforded to them. So, yeah, it's absolutely about working together to get the best outcome for everybody. Um, yeah. But I have to advise the client at the end of the day. And what happens is, as you'll know, if you're either in law or if you're looking to go into law, your client is the one providing you with instructions. You can provide advice to them, you can explain where you think the case should go, but you are also taking instructions from that client and they're explaining to you the outcome that they would like.
So it's a busy life, Natalie. How do
Yeah.
you describe your work-life balance?
Oh, well. It's it can be tough at times because there might be a number of court hearings. So, for instance, next week I'll have two in a day in different parts of the UK, all northwest, thankfully. But then comes with that is you come back and the emails haven't stopped. But I certainly think that it's how you apply your day. So, for instance, if because of course a lot of us now are home working. Don't get me wrong, I'm a mixture. So whilst it is generally home working, I like to go into the office. I like to see people. I have paralegals that I like to see and assist and help because, of course, what was before we had COVID, and it seems such a long time ago now, everybody was in the office every day. And you worked until, well, at the time it was 5:30. And everybody would be able to feed off that experience, and it was fantastic. Whereas now, certainly the profession, and I'm sure a lot of professions, you're finding yourself at home. And so I like to go in, see clients, make sure that your presence is known, because actually what happens is I'll go into the office and somebody go, oh, right, I wanted to talk to you. But because you're there and your face is there and they've remembered that they wanted to talk to you, you're then pulled into a meeting, which is, and you've helped somebody out for that day. Um, of course, I think law in itself, it would be remiss of me if I wasn't going to say that it was just a breeze. It's not, but I'm sure you all know that. And coming into this, and actually, you may be studying your law degree not because you want to become a solicitor or a barrister, but certainly looking at a law degree or a combined honours degree is absolutely invaluable for life skills. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic. So it is in summary, it is tough at times, but I knew that coming into that, and I thrive on that. And I do think though that coming up to say some leave, it might be that I'm particularly busy. But then hopefully once I've got through that, I can go off and leave and think, okay, it'll be there when I get back, but I'm in a good place where I can go on leave and enjoy it. So yeah, it's it's what you make it, I think. I think you can work yourself into the complete ground, um, or you can recognize sometimes when it's a little bit much and you need to take a step back and read. And sometimes that might be me just doing a to-do list, going back to pen and paper because I'm a little bit like that, and making sure, right, okay, what do I need to achieve today? And that helps.
I think this speaks directly to our OU students, Natalie. So,
Yeah.
Natalie, along your career journey, did you have
hmm
any specific role models or mentors?
Yeah, I was really lucky, and I still am now. When I started in my first legal job, I had a really good role model. It was a partner at the firm. And because I wanted to learn, and because so that might be because don't forget, I was entering the profession. I was not a lot younger. Yes, I had some responsibilities, but um, and I had, things to take care of, but I didn't have a family at the time, and so there were elements where I'd say, okay, what do you need me to do? I'd take work in all of the time, and that big red pen would come out at times, and say, okay, I would have looked at it that way. To me, once that has gone in and I've looked at it, I'll go, okay, I know that for next time now, because I wanted to learn. And this particular person, we ended up then moving together to another firm. It was it, she was a very big advocate of my career, and I can safely say I don't think I would be where I am now if it wasn't for her championing me and seeing something in me. So because she saw the drive that I had, and she saw the motivation, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to get things right. That if you're telling me once, I'm going to retain it. I'm going to make notes. So that's what I would say. If you've got into and that might not be your professional in law, you might have that particular person in your home life or in the role that you currently do. And equally, what was really nice for me actually was I had a student who has actually just finished her degree and sent me an email because I was her first tutor um, way back when. And she said, I just wanted to let you know what a difference that you made when you supported me when I wasn't feeling like I was not, the word wasn't good enough, but I wasn't feeling as confident, and that the barriers that I'd put in place for myself, I'm now at the end of it and I'm now waiting, and I hope to pass the degree, and thanks very much. And as an AL, sometimes it's great to hear because you'll you'll lecture people and tutor people for a set period of time. And then if you don't tutor on the sort of year three modules, sometimes that gets lost. So it was absolutely brilliant to hear from her that she'd completed the degree that she'd wanted to complete.
That's what gives us our teaching buzz and
It
sustains
does.
it.
It
It does.
absolutely does.
Do you have any further advice for our students about seeking out those role models and those mentors?
When it's tough because what you're doing is, I suppose, if you're not in a law role and you're seeking to get in, try and use, if you've got a manager who is supportive of what you're doing, it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody that's in a law firm to give you that, mentorship. Yes, I got that from being in a law role, but actually before that, when I worked at the Open University, when I worked at the local authority, I had different people in my role that were championing me doing the role that I was doing. So I think if you can take somebody, and that might be a peer, that might be someone in your team that's giving you the pep talks and saying, look, you can do it. I know you can. You're more than capable of this when you're maybe doubting yourself. So it doesn't have to come from a role that in law, it can come from anybody. And it might come from your parents, your children, your friends, because you can reach out. And I would say reach out to those people if you're struggling. And us as associate lecturers, absolutely, we're always there to listen. So I think if you haven't currently got a role model, it might be that when you're applying for roles or you are attending things like this or other Open University talks, it might be reaching out and and asking those questions to that person. So, and yeah, so that's what I would say.
Well, you can expect some questions then, I'm sure, Natalie, but I like how you've described this about finding people who are in your corner and who can champion you in a variety of ways. And you kind of describe a daisy chain of champions where, you know, one person has championed you, and then that leads to a situation where in the end you will be able to champion them in all manners of ways, and so on it spreads.
Well, that's a really good point, actually, because I do now. I have paralegals in the team and they want to get the experience and they want to learn. So the things that are passed down to me, I pass down to them. And, you know, there might be days when they're like any, you know, you're not going to be absolutely full of the joys of spring every day. And sometimes the paralegals will come to me and say, oh, gosh, I've got this, I've got that, I need some help. But as long as we sit down and talk it through, that's me passing on what was passed on to me. And in effect, once they qualify or once they decide what they want to do with their career, they equally can pass that down. And that's how we don't lose the experience in the profession. I was worried for a time when we did go into COVID and everybody was working from home that we might lose a little bit of that experience because you weren't seeing those people every day. You weren't seeing your trainees day in, day out from 9 or 8:30 till 5:30. But actually, people have adapted now. And like with my role, there is an office to attend. So I do always put that out when I'm going in to say, does anybody want to come?
And this is all about, you know, creating that culture of
Mm,
diversity and
hmm
accessibility in the profession.
absolutely.
Well, thanks very much, Natalie, for sharing with us your journey and insights into your legal profession, and particularly what you do and how you've made it your own. We'll pause for a moment to see if there's any questions coming up on the board. But in the meantime, maybe Katie, you can load some slides. We have some resources for our students on further links and advice for careers. So there are specific resources on your Law Study Home website. You can get information and advice directly related to your careers, all the different kinds of careers that are open for those with a law degree. As well, the careers and employability services, which are available on our help center, they give you guides, there are online resources and tools, there are advice, activities, plans for how to make your career dreams come true, including the career planning guide, which allows you to map out your pathway to achieve your goals. There's also Opportunity Hub, which provides a number of workshops. And we have some tools such as CV 360 and Interview 360, which uses AI, artificial intelligence, to improve your CV, as well as giving you the opportunity to practice your interview skills. And you can also contact a careers consultant from our employability services right there on the Help Center. And on this side, I have a number of links for you to look and explore some further resources. So here on the left, ways to build your future career with confidence and to navigate your future activity pathway. And here on the right-hand side, a link about OU students and alumni making strong candidates, and that you are no exception, as Natalie has just shared her experience with you. And to know that at any time, for up to 3 years after you graduate, you have the opportunity to avail yourself of our career and employability tools, resources, attend events, and book in time with a careers consultant for anything that you want to discuss about planning your future career. You can learn more about that there at the web link open.ac.uk/careers. And finally, we'll thank Natalie for giving of her time and her optimism and all of her experience, including that as an OU alumnus. Thank you so much for joining us, Natalie. This has been such a pleasure and such great insights for all of us. For those of you who are with us today, please can you complete the feedback survey, and the link is there on the slide, and Katie will post that for you. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching the recording, please do also use the hyperlink to complete our survey for our Bringing Law to Life program, so that we can continue to bring you more of these events and we can continue to hear inspiring stories from people like Natalie, who provide a wealth of practical advice and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again to Natalie. Take care, and we'll see you next time.